Happy Tuesday. It's time for AIR Radio. And Jennifer Hillman will be back in just a few minutes with her guest.
Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer Hillman. We are continuing the conversation with Matthew about shamanic creativity, or the essence of creative process, and how shamanic practice can help you get into the groove to really go that way, and open yourself to the creative powers that be. And a lot of times that creative self-expression can be very important for your path or for even others. I think a lot of times what we write are not necessarily for us, the messages for others. Would you agree, Matthew?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I think we all have gifts to give. Creative expression is the best gift you can give, I think, to anybody.
And the more you speak or write or create with your heart and your soul, it shows that it's source going through you. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And, it's a wonderful paradox, because I have people come to me quite frequently, and they'll say to me, well, what can I do to help and do the best, to serve the greatest good? And what I discovered for myself, I think it's universal, but I always say for myself because I don't want to impose my views on anybody. But the greatest, in my humble opinion, the greatest thing that anybody can do to help the greatest good is to help themselves and love themselves, because then, if you love yourself, you can't love anybody else until you love yourself first. And when you love yourself, I believe that it ripples out like the old cliche of the stone in the pond, and it affects people in different ways. And I've seen people go through transformation and how their energy, their personal energy has shifted and affected the people around them. Oftentimes I've seen immediate results. So love yourself and help yourself and do the best for yourself, and that really serves the greatest good, which is a wonderful paradox.
Well, there's so many paradoxes in life that if you don't laugh at the paradox, you're really taking life way too serious. It's interesting that there's so many ways of healing modalities that are out there to help kind of get over yourself. One of the things that I think a lot of writers and creative people have is that internal critic, that perfectionistic person that says, no, it's not good enough yet. That's one that I deal with quite a lot, and that's why a lot of times it is, and I'll put it this way, my excuse for not having books of poetry and other writings out. It's not right yet. Any clues on how to get past that?
Yeah, this is mildly crude, but for a number of years I taught a horror, fantasy, and science fiction workshop at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference, where I still teach now. And when people would come up to me with this, what I tell them is, puke on the page and just let it rip and forget, totally blow off the critic and just get it down, because that is what editing is for. And what people, we've been trained in schools and things like that, in English classes and blah, 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 to want every word to be perfect kind of a thing. And what happens there is you stifle the creative flow, because you're bringing your intellectual, egotistical critic in, trying to censor everything you do, and you really have to forget about it and just let it rip. And then you can always go back. There really is no such, if you're a real writer, there's no such thing as writing, there's rewriting. And there's a couple of things I learned years ago that I've done with kids. When I've done little writing workshops with kids, I tell them, we're going to do a free write, and you've got 5 minutes. And what you have to do is you have to put your pen on the paper, and when I say go, you have to write nonstop for 5 minutes. And even if you can't think of anything, you can write, gee, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? I don't care. Jesus, is he making me do this? I hate this guy. He's a bozo. I don't care. Write all that, but don't stop for 5 minutes. And I've seen some really wonderful stories come out of there. And along those same lines, the science fiction writer Ray Bradbury, who recently passed away, was a very dear friend of mine and a mentor. He gave me a blurb for my books, and he kicked off the Santa Barbara Writers Conference for 35 years, and he was just a wonderful, dear friend, mentor, and example. And what Ray said was that if you feel that you're stuck with your writing, what he said to do is when you wake up in the morning, first thing you do is go to the pen and paper and go to the keyboard and write whatever comes to your mind, and don't really pay it, just let it flow. If you do a page a day, that's great. If you do 2 or 3 pages a day, that's great. But you just do that, just let it flow, and then just set it aside and don't look at it. And he said, if you do that for a month or 2 or a few weeks, whatever feels good, and just keep doing that and never look at it and set it aside. And then after some period of time, then go back and pick it up and look at it, a theme will emerge. And then you can work with that. And that's really a wonderful way of connecting with the subconscious, where all the great things really come from, or come through. So set aside all that perfectional stuff, and it can be, that whole thing could be, it's another way of procrastinating, all those things, and don't listen. Just let it rip. Puke on the page, and you always can go back and edit and refine it later. There are days when I've been there. It doesn't happen as much anymore because I've been working at this for so long now, but there are days when I'd spend 2 hours and maybe get a paragraph. And then there'd be another day where I'd get 3 pages in 45 minutes. It just comes right out. And there are days when I look at it and I will go, wow, this is really some of the most brilliant stuff I've ever done. And then there are other days I look at it and go, where did this crap come from? Geez, I'm embarrassed. I hope nobody sees this. But when you bring in that side of yourself later on in the process, during the editing process, that's the time to be critical and all that stuff, but not while the flow is happening. Just flow with it and let it rip. And the way I look at it is each time I go through a successive edit, it's like a different set of eyes, or even a different personality or whatever. It's like another person is looking at it. Mm-hmm. And as each layer of revision happens, then more and more things get cleared away. And of course, in the beginning, you're clearing things away, and when you clear those things away, more things pop up that you didn't see before because you had to get rid of the other stuff. But if you continue to do it in that way, without getting overly obsessive about it, you'll get to a point where it all flows smooth, and it's all a matter of refining and revising, and that is what happens later, not during the initial creative spurt. During that first spurt, when it's flowing like that, don't even worry about punctuation or anything. Just go.
The thing I wanted to also add about the morning papers is it's a great thing if you want to remember your dreams, which is also great inspiration for writing and creating and seeing what patterns you're hitting and what is really going on within your subconscious.
Yeah, that's really wonderful raw subconscious material.
I've gotten many, many messages that have been inspirations for blogs that I've written or articles that I've written. It's just an insight that's like, wow, if I'm getting this insight, somebody else, I'm sure, would enjoy it. And a lot of times that's the ones that really, I'll get comments saying, I really needed that. Or even just one line that I post in Facebook of an inspiration thought to really get people moving. It's amazing and that's the thing that I find very interesting is more people like things short than versus long. It's like everybody has a short attention span these days.
Yeah, I agree. I got my own. I go crazy about that a little bit. I think the internet and texting, and actually, in terms of the internet, hypertext links. You're absolutely correct. The attention span's just not there. And I see some of these younger people, and, they learn to text and they learn to say, how are you doing? And it's how, and then it's the letter R, and it's the letter U. And then that kind of thing starts to creep into their regular writing.
Yeah.
And it is. It's getting very much shortened and truncated. And I kid myself. I call it attention span theater, How long can you keep them there? How long can you get them to a web page or a certain place? And how long can you keep their attention?
And it's interesting how, at least in blogs and stuff, they're even saying if it's like 500 words or less, you might get them through the whole article.
Yeah, it's true.
And so you really have to work on being very precise with your message and exactly what you are doing, which to me, I tend to, when I write at times, be very wordy. And the editing comes in and I clean it up quite a bit. But a lot of times it's that flow of just almost doing the dance with the divine upon the page. And it really can be a beautiful dance. And then sometimes you have to go back and chop it up.
Oh, yeah. I always tell people when I was writing Land Without Evil, I had this really articulately detailed, highly edited, precise sex scene that went on for, maybe 2 pages. And I don't know, maybe the 10th revision or far along the revision process, I was looking at it, and I had all these wonderful words all put together with all these really great metaphors and la, la, la. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to cut all this and have them come together and leave them off and stop right there and leave the rest to the reader's imagination. And it worked awesome because, there was a famous editor, he edited Hemingway and Somerset Maugham and F. Scott Fitzgerald and, his name's Maxwell Perkins. And, I lost my train of thought because I was trying to find Maxwell Perkins' name there.
About how he was saying about editing and leaving more to the imagination.
Yeah, and he came up with the wonderful expression, kill your darlings. So I'm not afraid to kill my darlings, and I could spend years refining a page into this highly wonderful, perfected piece of art. And if it's not working within the context of the story, and I can improve the overall story, I got no qualms of cutting pages of that. Just chop it right off and say, thank you very much. It's out of there. In fact, I find myself doing that now when I'm doing this screenplay adaptation, which is really a wonderful challenge in terms of saying things precisely, because in a screenplay, basically 1 page of a screenplay is 1 minute of screen time. So you got to try to get your story down to 120 pages.
Yeah. It really is a wonderful way of learning to write, too. I mean, to me, a screenplay is almost like a good outline for a good book.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of a novelistic literary haiku in a way,
Right. And a lot of times there's people who will write the screenplay and then flesh it out with the book, then sell the book, and then have the screenplay ready.
Yeah, I've been doing that a bit more now these days myself.
It speeds up the process because, in the book, the process of writing a screenplay and stuff, there's always like, oh, we really want to focus on this part of the story or that part of the story. So if you got the book, that's flushed out, so you can go to your basic screenplay and alter it a lot quicker.
Yep.
Because the focus of what the producers are trying to, or the director is trying to really emphasize in the story.
Right. That's right.
So that's so exciting about your movie, and even the play. I mean, even Austin performers putting it on. It's pretty amazing process. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is also with a lot more people doing expressionism and the arts overall really getting a rebirth. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that is part of the process of the overall transformation of humanity?
That's really funny you should say that, because the whole story and the show in particular was about that. It's about transformation and rebirth, death and rebirth. That's the theme of the show. And what my wonderful collaborator, Agent Red, did is she took key scenes from the novel and put them together into the show. And then she changed some story elements and changed some characters and things like that, not only to adapt it, but to highlight the talents of the performers she had. So the story was slightly different, but the essence of the story was there, and it was all about transformation and shamanic transformation. That was the whole thing. And I think that any creative person has to go to the well, to the depths of the well of their subconscious. And when you dig deep and start finding it, what happens is you tap into archetypes. And archetypes are bigger concepts that come through. And of course, particularly in writing, archetypes will come through, and they show up. Generally, the best way to do it is with metaphor, to give a person a sense of that. So when you start tapping into archetypes, you're tapping into more universal, higher-level concepts. And when you hit them in the right way, people resonate with that on a deep level within themselves because they understand, because they're universal.
Right.
And interestingly enough, that whole idea there is why the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell is so popular. And the hero's journey actually is also a map of a shamanic journey into the underworld. They're really one and the same. And the reason they're connected in that way is because they deal with the archetypes. One of the reasons that originally Star Wars became so popular is because it follows the hero's journey. And whether consciously or unconsciously, on my part, I'll never know. But when I originally wrote the novel Land Without Evil, it follows the hero's journey. And when I realized that later, I was surprised. I was like, wow. But, I mean, that's how deeply it is embedded within our collective psyche. And that's why when it resonates, because, people feel it.
Well, it's interesting that there is quite a lot of the archetype coming back. I mean, Caroline Myss wrote a book years ago, decades ago actually, on the archetypes, and she has come out with yet another one. And there's been a few other books that have come out on the importance of the archetype. And there even are a lot of astrologers who are now taking astrology and the mythology and the archetypes and bringing that out to really kind of get in touch with people and present that information so they resonate, as you said, because they understand the archetype that's within them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
And it's interesting to... Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was letting you go.
Okay,
well, you
go
mentioned,
on. You were saying something.
Well, astrology, the zodiac, are actually representative of different energies, and each of the zodiac symbols represent a different type or quality of energy, and those are archetypes. So that's why they resonate with people so deeply.
Right. And it is a tool to get to know themselves. So it is kind of interesting to see the different stories. And it's Jean Houston just did the archetypes related to the Wizard of Oz, which was fascinating to hear her talk about that. And how that storyline that was originally written back in the 1930s has such a present day feel to it, as the woman truly understanding the power is within you at all times. Glenda says, it's always been with you. That magic to go home anytime. You just need to believe in yourself, which is a lot of what I think the shamanic practice is truly attempting to show us, that we really can trust ourselves and trust that intuition and that guidance to move forward within our own expression, to show our individuality within the whole, because we are a reflection of everybody.
That's right.
So it's very interesting.
Model. Yeah. It's truth.
And
know the truth and it shall set you free, eh?
It's really, exactly. The other thing that's very interesting is seeing a lot of the old TV shows that have put out there, and how they really were very prophetic in their own way of showing the possibility of the way humanity could be going, like the Twilight Zones, and even Star Trek in many ways was showing in a different way how society could do, and also almost like going out into journey and having that hero's journey and going out to the unknown and finding oneself. So it's really, there's a lot of very interesting concepts that are coming out through the spiritual practices that are coming and are been around for so long. And it's nice to see a lot of people opening up to those energies. So with that, is there... How is it interesting in your point of view?
Oh, well, it's interesting because both Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, two of my favorites, especially Twilight Zone was a huge influence on my writing, is that both of those shows were actually morality tales. And if you watch the old Star Trek episodes, even I think The Next Generation also, if you watch them and they go through their whole thing, at the end they'll have one statement that somebody says that sums it all up. And each one of them is kind of a lesson about life and humanity and those things. And they're all morality tales, which I just think was awesome. Because you can sit there and preach about this and that and spirituality and all that, and that's all really fine and dandy. But if you take what you see as a truth and you dramatize it, then people get the message far better than if you're just preaching at them, if they hear it in a story.
Yes.
That's our writing tradition.
There's magical metaphors. Those metaphors that come back to remind you of the inner truths within us all. So, Matthew, I think we're going to wrap this up real quick, and because of that, I want you to tell people a few things that you're up to, where they can get more information about you. Give us the lowdown, man. What's going on with you?
Lots of good things. Okay, so first off, everybody is welcome to come and visit my website, which is www.mattpallamary.com. So that's M-A-T-T, P as in Paul, A-L-L-A, M as in Mary, A-R-Y. Come there. I have podcasts, I have videos, I've got lectures, I've got pictures, I've got jungles, I've got lots of stuff. So please come and visit there. I don't remember when we did the last show, but I recently published a book called The Infinity Zone, A Transcendent Approach to Peak Performance. And that just won an International Book Award for New Age nonfiction. I'm happy with that. I have also been working every weekend in the studio recording the audio book of Spirit Matters. So that'll be forthcoming in a few months. And then I would also like everybody, they're invited to visit landwithoutevil.com. So it's Land Without Evil, all one word. And that is the website for the wonderful stage show that was put on in Austin. So there's some video there. There's wonderful pictures from the show. There's all kinds of different things about what the show is all about. So everybody is welcome to visit that. And then, on my webpage, there will be schedules for. I'm often speaking at writers' conferences and different appearances here and there. So I won't get into the upcoming appearances, but people can go there and look. And if anybody's on Facebook, please, by all means, come on down and say hi and friend me, and let's connect. And I want to thank you very much for having me on the show, and your awesome producer there. It's just been good, and you have a way of really pulling the stuff out of me. So I very much appreciate the whole energetic that you and I have. So thank you, and bless you for that.
Well, bless you for all the taps on the shoulders, physically and in spirit. You always are around me. I know that. It's beautiful when you connect with a kindred spirit, and it's just like, it truly is magic. How it all works. I thank you very much for all your wisdom and all your work, and we definitely will have you on again. It's really a pleasure to have you on every time. The conversation just flows.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Mr. Dave. I'm not sure what he was going to do, but I do want to say that With Spirit Radio is donation-based, so if you can donate, come check out the new website. The gang has done a beautiful job on the new website, so please come check it out. It is wonderful. If you listen to the show, we often talk a little bit more in the chat room, so check that out. So with that, this is Jennifer Hillman. If you want more information about me, you can always go to jenniferhillman.com. or angelsintuition.com, and I am on Facebook, so connect me on there. It's always a pleasure. This is Jennifer Hillman with Abstract Illusions Radio on the beautiful station Wolf Spirit Radio, saying, till next time, with each breath of air, we hope you gain new insights and inspiration. Thanks a lot.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.